Welcome, basketball fans, to what might just be the most chaotic, earth-shattering, and profoundly monumental news day in recent NBA history. If you thought the offseason was going to give you a moment to catch your breath, you were entirely mistaken. We are standing at the epicenter of a basketball earthquake, a seismic shift that is simultaneously altering the fundamental rules of the game we love, redefining the twilight years of the greatest player of our generation, and providing a tear-jerking, storybook ending for a modern-day legend. Today, we are breaking down a trifecta of absolute madness. First, the NBA is officially testing a wildly controversial, game-changing free throw rule that has fans, purists, and analysts completely divided. Next, the king himself, LeBron James, has officially declared he is done with the Los Angeles Lakers, blowing the free agency market wide open, with the Golden State Warriors emerging as the staggering frontrunners to build a veritable super team for his final chapter. And finally, we bid a profoundly emotional farewell to a true icon of the North, as Kyle Lowry signs a one-day contract to retire exactly where he belongs, as a Toronto Raptor. This is not just another news dump. This is a day that will be remembered as a turning point in the timeline of professional basketball. Think about what we are witnessing. For decades, the rhythm, the flow, and the mathematical strategy of basketball have been anchored to the free throw line. The deliberate pacing, the psychological warfare at the charity stripe, the sheer tension of a player stepping up to shoot 2 or 3 consecutive shots to tie or win a game. These are the deeply ingrained mechanics of the sport. But Adam Silver and the NBA brass are apparently looking at the blueprint of the game and deciding it is time for a massive renovation. The introduction of the singular weighted free throw during the upcoming summer leagues is not merely an experiment. It is a profound philosophical shift in how the sport is consumed and played. It challenges the very endurance and concentration metrics we have used to evaluate players for over 100 years. We are talking about replacing the dramatic, drawn-out suspense of multiple free throws with a single, sudden-death style shot worth up to 3 points. The implications for late-game strategies, scoring averages, and the overall pacing of television broadcasts are absolutely staggering. It is a bold, almost reckless leap into the future, and we are going to unpack exactly why the league is doing this, who it benefits, and whether it threatens the sanctity of the game itself. But while the rules of the game are being rewritten on one front, the landscape of the league's power dynamic is being violently overhauled on another. LeBron Raymond James, the kid from Akron, the 4-time champion, the all-time leading scorer, a man who has defied father time with a level of sheer physical dominance and intellectual mastery of the game that we have never seen before, is on the move once again. After another grueling campaign with the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron has definitively closed the book on his Hollywood era. He is returning for the 2026 to 2027 season, but it will not be in purple and gold. That singular decision has ignited a free agency firestorm the likes of which we have not seen since his infamous decision back in 2010. The implications of this move are monumental, not just for the Lakers, who are now left staring into the abyss of a massive rebuild, but for the entire Western Conference. And right at the center of this storm, lurking with intent, are the Golden State Warriors, the very franchise that stood as LeBron's greatest roadblock. The team that denied him multiple championships is now the overwhelming favorite to secure his signature. The sheer poetry, the irony, and the terrifying potential of LeBron James joining forces with Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, and Kristaps Porzingis is enough to make the rest of the league collectively shudder. We are talking about the assembly of an Avengers-level squad, a final, glorious ride for a collection of future Hall of Famers looking to burn the league to the ground one last time. The San Antonio Spurs have already backed out of the sweepstakes, pivoting to Tobias Harris, which only clears a runway further for Golden State. We're going to analyze exactly how LeBron fits into Steve Kerr's system at this stage of his career, what this means for his legacy, and why this potential union is the most compelling narrative in sports today. And amidst all this chaos, all this forward-looking frenzy and strategic maneuvering, we have a moment of pure, unadulterated nostalgia and gratitude. Kyle Lowry, the ultimate bulldog, the heart and soul of the Toronto Raptors' 2019 championship run, has announced he is calling it a career, but he is not just fading away into the sunset. In a move that perfectly encapsulates his deep, unbreakable bond with the city of Toronto and the entire country of Canada, Lowry is signing a one-day contract to officially retire as a member of the Raptors. The franchise has already announced that his iconic number 7 jersey will be elevated to the rafters during the 2026 to 2027 season, cementing his legacy as arguably the greatest Raptor of all time. Lowry's journey from a gritty, often misunderstood guard to a 6-time All-Star, an Olympic gold medalist, and an NBA champion is a testament to perseverance, basketball IQ, and an unmatched will to win. He redefined the culture in Toronto, transforming a franchise that was often overlooked into a perennial powerhouse characterized by toughness and defensive tenacity. We are going to take a deep dive into Lowry's phenomenal 20-year career, reliving the charges taken, the clutch pull-up threes, the leadership that guided a team to the mountaintop, and what his retirement means for a generation of point guards who modeled their game after his relentless style at SO. Buckle up, because we are diving deep into the absolute madness that is the current state of the NBA. We are going to dissect the mathematical and psychological ramifications of the single free throw rule. We're going to break down the XS and OS, the salary cap gymnastics, and the legacy implications of LeBron James potentially donning a Golden State Warriors jersey. And we are going to celebrate the incredible, hard-fought career of Kyle Lowry. This is a monumental day, a crossroads of the past, present, and future of basketball, and we are going to explore every single intricate detail. Let us begin by dissecting this absolute bombshell regarding the NBA's rule changes. If you have been paying attention to the league trajectory over the last decade, you know that Adam Silver is obsessed with two things: game flow and viewer retention. In an era of shrinking attention spans and infinite entertainment options, the NBA has been quietly waging a war against dead time. We have seen efforts to speed up replay reviews, cut down on transition take fouls, and tweak timeout structures. But this new experiment, set to be deployed during the upcoming summer leagues, is the most aggressive strike against dead time we have ever seen. The NBA is testing the one free throw rule. This means that if a player is fouled on a 2-point attempt and misses, they will not go to the line for 2 separate shots. Instead, they will shoot one single free throw. If it goes in, they get 2 points. If they are fouled on a 3-point attempt, they shoot one single free throw worth 3 points. If they make an and-one, they still shoot one free throw worth 1 point. The standard rules will only apply in the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, and during overtime, TO understand the magnitude of this. You have to understand how deeply the traditional free throw sequence is embedded into the fabric of the sport. It is the only time in a basketball game where the clock stops, the frenetic motion halts, and the game becomes a purely isolated individual skill challenge. It is a moment for players to catch their breath. It is a moment for coaches to make situational substitutions without burning a timeout. It is a moment for the crowd to rally, to chant, to attempt to psych out the opposing shooter. By condensing 2 or 3 shots into one high-stakes attempt, the league is fundamentally altering the rhythm of the game. On a practical level, the math behind this is fascinating. Historically, a player who shoots 80% from the free throw line has a roughly 64% chance of making both shots in a standard 2-shot foul scenario. Under the new rule, that same 80% shooter now has an 80% chance of securing those 2 points, because it all hinges on one release. This mathematically favors the offense and specifically favors poor free throw shooters, because the variance of missing 1 out of 2 shots is eliminated. You either get all the points or you get none. But the psychological weight of this change is even heavier. Imagine a scenario early in the fourth quarter. A player is fouled behind the 3-point line. Under the old rules, they have 3 attempts to calibrate their shot, to find their rhythm, and to secure points of their team. Missing the first one is bad, but you still have 2 chances to salvage the trip to the line. Under the experimental rule, that player steps up knowing that this single shot is worth 3 points. It is a massive, sudden swing in momentum entirely dependent on one flick of the wrist. The pressure on that singular shot is exponentially higher. While the league claims they are keeping the traditional rules for the final 2 minutes to preserve the drama of late-game fouling strategies, the reality is that the preceding 46 minutes will feel entirely different. Games will undoubtedly move faster. The actual real-time duration of an NBA game could shrink by 10 to 15 minutes. Broadcasters will have less time to tell stories or run replays between shots. For purists, This feels like an artificial acceleration, a gimmick that strips away a fundamental building block of the sport. But for the league office, looking at data that shows viewers changing the channel during extended parades to the free throw line, it is a necessary evolution. If this rule successfully translates from the G League and the Summer League to the main NBA stage, it will completely change how we evaluate shooting efficiency, how teams manage fatigue, and how the game breathes. Now, from the mechanics of the game, let us transition to the tectonic plates shifting the league's competitive landscape. LeBron James is officially moving on from the Los Angeles Lakers. Let that sink in. The era that brought a championship to Los Angeles in the NBA bubble. The era that saw LeBron break Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record in a Laker uniform is over. Despite putting up completely absurd, historically unprecedented numbers for a man in his early 40s during the 2025 to 2026 campaign, it became glaringly obvious that the Lakers, as currently constructed, were no longer a viable championship threat. LeBron James does not play for the play-in tournament. LeBron James does not play for moral victories. He plays for rings. He plays for legacy. And he recognized that the window in Los Angeles had slammed shut. So, where does a billionaire basketball savant and living legend go for his final act? The rumors have been swirling for months. Miami, a return to Cleveland. The Knicks. But one team has consistently lingered in the shadows, waiting for this exact moment. The Golden State Warriors. And according to top NBA insiders, the Warriors are not just in the mix. They are the overwhelming frontrunners. The San Antonio Spurs, initially thought to be a threat to sign LeBron to pair him with Victor Wembanyama, have officially bowed out, opting to sign Tobias Harris to a multi-year deal. This clears the deck for Golden State. The concept of LeBron James joining the Golden State Warriors is almost too chaotic to comprehend. For 4 straight years, from 2015 to 2018, LeBron James and the Warriors defined the NBA. They were the ultimate rivals. The Warriors were the beautiful, ball-sharing, three-point shooting machine, and LeBron was the unstoppable, singular force of nature trying to tear the machine apart by himself. They fought absolute wars against each other. And now, they might join forces. Why? Because desperation breeds incredible alliances. The Warriors, despite having Steph Curry still playing at an elite level, realize their dynastic core is aging. They have already made aggressive moves, acquiring Jimmy Butler and Kristaps Porzingis to pair with Curry and Draymond Green. Adding LeBron James to that mix would create a roster that looks like an all-star team from 5 years ago, but one that still possesses an astonishingly high basketball IQ and a terrifying level of competitive fire. Look at the fit on the floor. LeBron James has spent the last 5 years having to initiate almost every single offensive set for his teams. He has carried an unreasonable offensive burden. In Golden State, playing alongside the greatest shooter in the history of the universe in Steph Curry, LeBron would finally have the space to operate that he has always craved. Imagine a pick and roll involving LeBron James and Steph Curry. How do you defend that? If you trap Curry, you are letting LeBron James roll downhill into the paint with a 4-on-3 advantage, surrounded by shooters and cutters. It is basketball checkmate. Furthermore, LeBron's well-documented, deep friendship with Draymond Green ensures that the locker room dynamic will be seamless. Green has been recruiting LeBron for years, publicly and privately. They share a mutual respect for high-level basketball processing, with Jimmy Butler providing relentless perimeter defense and secondary playmaking, and Porzingis stretching the floor from the center position. LeBron would be able to pick his spots. He would not have to score 30 points a night. He could transition into a Magic Johnson-esque role, a supersized point guard orchestrating the most lethal offense in the league. Conserve his energy for the fourth quarter and the playoffs, of course. The financial gymnastics required to make this happen are staggering. Joe Lacob, the Warriors' owner, has never been afraid of the luxury tax, but signing LeBron would push their payroll into astronomical, unprecedented territories. It would require veterans taking minimum deals to fill out the bench. It would be an all-in 1-year or 2-year gamble of epic proportions, but it is a gamble that Golden State has to take. And for LeBron, it is the clearest path to tying Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan with 5 or 6 rings. It is a chance to prove that he can adapt, that he can integrate into a system that he did not personally build from scratch. The narrative weight of LeBron James winning his final championship alongside Steph Curry is a storybook ending that Hollywood writers would deem too unrealistic. But in the modern NBA, reality is always stranger than fiction. The sheer gravity of this potential move is holding the entire rest of the league hostage. General managers are paralyzed, waiting to see where the king lands before they make their countermoves. Because if LeBron goes to the Bay, the Western Conference is playing for second place. While we obsess over the future with LeBron and the rule changes, we must also take a profound moment to honor the past. Today, Kyle Lowry announced that he is coming home. He is signing a one-day contract with the Toronto Raptors to officially retire from the National Basketball Association. Following a grueling, spectacular, and defiant 20-year career, the man affectionately known as K-Lo is hanging up his sneakers exactly where his legacy was forged. Furthermore, the Raptors have announced that his number 7 jersey will be retired and raised to the rafters next season. Understand, Kyle, Lowry's legacy. You have to understand what the Toronto Raptors were before he arrived and what they became under his leadership. When Lowry was traded to Toronto in 2012, he was a talented but frustrating point guard who had clashed with coaches in Memphis and Houston. He was viewed as a backup, a placeholder. The Raptors themselves were a franchise stuck in a perpetual cycle of mediocrity, struggling to attract free agents and searching for an identity post-Vince Carter and Chris Bosh. Kyle Lowry changed everything. Through sheer force of will, an encyclopedic understanding of the game, and a level of toughness that borders on the pathological, he built a culture. Lowry was never the most athletic player on the floor. He was not going to jump over anyone, but he was almost always the smartest and the toughest. He led the league in drawing charges year after year, willingly sacrificing his body, stepping in front of driving behemoths to steal an extra possession for his team. He was a maestro of the fast break, the master of the pull-up transition three-pointer, and an elite floor general who knew exactly when to involve his teammates and when to take over a game. Alongside DeMar DeRozan, he resurrected basketball in Canada, leading the Raptors to consecutive playoff appearances and deep runs in the Eastern Conference. They brought the franchise respectability. But it was the 2018 to 2019 season that cemented his immortality. When DeRozan was traded for Kawhi Leonard, Lowry was heartbroken, but he remained the undisputed leader of the locker room. He integrated Leonard into the system, managed the egos, and provided the emotional heartbeat for a team on a championship mission. And when the pressure was at its absolute highest, in Game 6 of the 2019 NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors, Kyle Lowry delivered a masterclass. He scored the first 11 points of the game for Toronto. He finished with 26 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds, closing out the dynasty and bringing a championship to Canada. That performance, that sheer refusal to lose, is a defining moment of his career. Retiring a jersey is the ultimate sign of respect a franchise can bestow upon a player. For Kyle Lowry, the number 7 hanging in Scotiabank Arena is not just a recognition of his statistics, his 6 All-Star appearances, or his franchise records in assists, steals, and three-pointers made. It is a monument to a mentality. It represents the era when the Toronto Raptors stopped apologizing for existing and started demanding respect. It represents the gritty, blue-collar work ethic that resonated deeply with the city of Toronto. Lowry's one-day contract is a beautiful formality, a chance for the fans to say a proper goodbye to the GOAT, the greatest Raptor of all time. His journey from a gritty kid out of Villanova to a champion and a Hall of Fame candidate is one of the most remarkable development arcs in modern sports history. He leaves the game having squeezed absolutely every ounce of potential out of his frame, a true warrior who left it all on the floor. As we bring this incredibly packed discussion to a close, let's take a moment to look at the grand tapestry of the NBA that has been woven today. We are witnessing a sport in a state of rapid, almost violent evolution. On one side, we have the league executives fundamentally tinkering with the structural DNA of a game. The one free throw rule is not just a minor adjustment. It is a profound philosophical statement that entertainment value and pace of play are paramount. Whether you view it as a necessary modernization or a tragic departure from basketball purity, it is a clear signal that the NBA is not afraid to break its own traditions to secure its future. The Summer League test run will be heavily scrutinized, not just for the statistical outcomes, but for the visceral feel of the game. Will it feel like the basketball we grew up with, or something entirely new. Simultaneously, the player empowerment era, an era pioneered and perfected by LeBron James, continues to dictate the balance of power. LeBron's impending decision is a stark reminder that in today's NBA, geography and team loyalty are entirely secondary to pursuit of ultimate greatness. The possibility of him joining the Golden State Warriors is a testament to his relentless desire to win and his willingness to embrace the absolute most polarizing narratives to achieve it. If that super team forms in the Bay Area, it will dominate the sports news cycle every single day of the upcoming season. It will be the greatest show on earth, a traveling circus of basketball royalty, chasing ghosts and fighting off Father Time. It is a scenario that proves that even at the age of 41, LeBron James remains the sun around which the entire NBA universe orbits. And grounding all of this high-stakes drama and futuristic rule-bending is the beautiful, human element of Kyle Lowry's retirement. Amidst all the billions of dollars and the massive egos, Lowry's story reminds us of the grit, the loyalty, and emotional connection that makes sports so deeply resonant. His one-day contract with Toronto is a masterclass in how to say goodbye. It is a celebration of a player who maximized his talent, uplifted a franchise, and united an entire country behind a basketball team. When that number 7 jersey is eventually raised to the rafters, it will stand as a permanent reminder that heart, intelligence, and an unwavering commitment to your teammates can elevate a player to absolute legendary status. Today, the NBA has shown us its past, its present, and its bold, uncertain future. The rules are changing. The Kings are moving their pieces across the board, and the legends are taking their final bows. This is why we watch. This is why we care. The off-season is supposed to be a time of rest, but in this league, the drama literally never stops. Keep your eyes locked on the wire, because the fallout from these stories is going to shape the landscape of professional basketball for years to come. Thank you for joining me for this extensive deep dive. It is a phenomenal time to be a basketball fan. Stay tuned, because this crazy, unpredictable ride is just getting started.